You don't come to Japan for romance. You come because your life back home feels like it's held together with duct tape and denial. The dating app stopped working 6 months ago. Your career has the momentum of a shopping cart with a broken wheel. Your friends are getting married or having kids or buying houses, and you're still trying to figure out how to afford therapy. So you do what every confused 20-something with a passport does. You run. You buy a one-way ticket to Tokyo with $2,000 in savings, a teaching certificate you got online in 3 weeks, and the unshakable confidence of someone who's watched enough anime to think they understand an entire culture. The plan is simple. Teach English for a year, learn Japanese, find yourself. Maybe meet someone who doesn't know about that time you drunk texted your ex a 3-paragraph essay about emotional availability. Fresh start, clean slate, new you. You land at Narita on a Wednesday morning with jet lag so brutal it feels like your brain is buffering. Tokyo hits you immediately. The efficiency, the crowds, the vending machines that dispense hot coffee and existential clarity in equal measure. You find an apartment in Nakano, a neighborhood the expat forums call authentic, which is code for affordable and far enough from Shibuya that tourists don't clog the sidewalks. The apartment is a shoebox. 1 room, a kitchen that's technically a hallway with ambition, a bathroom so compact you can brush your teeth, shower, and question your life choices simultaneously. Rent is 70,000 yen a month. That's about $500, which in Tokyo makes it a miracle. Everywhere else makes it a storage unit with plumbing. Your first month is a masterclass in humility. You butcher every Japanese phrase you attempt. You bow at the wrong times. You take your shoes off in places where shoes stay on and keep them on in places where they absolutely should not be. The train system makes you feel like you're failing an IQ test twice daily. You get lost in Shinjuku station for 40 minutes and emerge on the wrong side of the city, disoriented and convinced the universe is personally offended by your existence. But you're here. You're doing it. You're living in Japan. The loneliness arrives around week 3. Not the dramatic kind. The slow kind. The kind that sits on your chest at 2 a.m. when you're scrolling through photos of people back home living lives that don't include you anymore. Your co-workers at the English school are polite but distant. Your students are lovely, but you're their teacher, not their friend. The other foreigners you meet are either leaving in 2 months or have been here so long they've forgotten how to connect with people who still think convenience store fried chicken is exciting. That's when the apps happen. You download them out of boredom first, then curiosity, then something closer to desperation. Tinder, Bumble, Pairs, which is the Japanese one everyone swears works better but has a user interface designed by someone who's never experienced joy. You spend an hour crafting your profile. You choose photos that say adventurous but approachable. You write a bio that's clever without trying too hard. You're fluent in the international language of thirst and you're ready to deploy it. The matches come faster than you expected. Conversations start. Some fizzle immediately, others gain momentum. You learn quickly that dating here operates on a different frequency. The directness you're used to doesn't translate. The casual confidence that worked back home reads as aggressive. You're navigating a system where the rules aren't written down and everyone assumes you already know them. You don't. But then there's Yuki. Her profile shows up on a Thursday night while you're eating convenience store pasta in your underwear, which is not the romantic origin story you'd tell your kids, but honesty matters. Her photos are understated, no filters, no group shots where you have to guess which person she is. Just her, bookstore, coffee shop, park bench with a paperback. Her bio says she likes old movies and terrible puns, which feels like a trap but also like an invitation. You swipe right. She matches instantly. The conversation starts easy. She asks where you're from. You ask what she's reading. She sends a photo of her current book. You recognize the author and mention you've read his other work. She responds with genuine enthusiasm, not the polite kind. The messages stretch from minutes to hours. It's midnight, then 1, then 2. You're supposed to teach at 8 a.m. and you don't care. This feeling, this specific buzz of connection with someone who exists in the same city as you is the first thing that's felt right since you landed. She suggests meeting for coffee on Saturday. You say yes before she finishes typing the question. You meet at a coffee shop in Shimokitazawa. She's already there when you arrive, sitting by the window with a book open that she's clearly not reading because she looks up the moment you walk in. She's prettier than her photos, which feels illegal somehow, like false advertising in reverse. You sit down. The conversation picks up exactly where the text left off. No awkward silences, no forced small talk. Just two people who've somehow managed to sync their frequencies in a city that usually scrambles them. She tells you she works at a publishing house, editorial assistant. Long hours, low pay, but she gets to read manuscripts before anyone else, and occasionally someone writes something that reminds her why books matter. You tell her about teaching English to businessmen who apologize every time they make a mistake, and elderly women who bring you homemade sweets, and ask about your love life with the subtlety of a background check. She laughs. That's the moment. Not the first laugh, but the second one. The one that comes 30 seconds later when you're not trying to be funny. That's when you realize this might be something. Coffee turns into lunch. Lunch turns into walking through the neighborhood. She shows you a used bookstore tucked down an alley you've walked past a dozen times without noticing. Inside, it smells like paper and time. She pulls a book off the shelf and reads you a passage in Japanese, then translates it into English, badly on purpose just to make you laugh. You buy the book even though you can't read it. She writes her name on the inside cover. You meet again 3 days later, then twice the next week. Then it stops being countable because you're just always making plans. Dinner at a tiny ramen shop in Nakano where the owner knows her by name. A movie at an art house theatre in Shibuya where the seats are older than you and the film has no subtitles, but she whispers translations during the quiet parts. A walk along the Meguro River at night where the streetlights reflect off the water, and she tells you about growing up in Saitama and feeling like Tokyo was a place she had to earn the right to belong to. You understand that more than she knows. Weeks pass, then a month. You're not calling it a relationship yet because naming things makes them real, and real things can end. But it feels like something that has weight, something that takes up space in your day, even when she's not there. Your apartment stops feeling like a cell. Your students stop being just students. The train rides stop feeling like punishment. Tokyo recalibrates around this new center of gravity, and suddenly the city that felt designed to keep you isolated has created a pocket where you fit. She stays over on a Friday night. Your apartment is still embarrassingly small and your bed is a futon on the floor, and your kitchen is a joke. She doesn't care. You cook pasta badly. She fixes it while you watch. You eat on the floor because you still don't own a table. She falls asleep with her head on your shoulder while you're halfway through a movie neither of you was paying attention to. You stay awake longer than you should, just looking at her, memorizing this. 2 months in and you meet her friends. They take you to an izakaya in Ebisu. They're warm but cautious. They ask questions that sound casual but are clearly designed to assess whether you're serious or just another foreigner passing through. You don't blame them. You'd probably do the same. One of them asks how long you're planning to stay in Japan. You say at least another year, maybe longer. You glance at Yuki when you say it. She's smiling into a drink. That night, walking back to the station, she takes your hand. Not for the first time, but this time it feels like a decision. Like she's chosen to stop protecting herself from the possibility that you might leave. You squeeze her hand back. You mean it as a promise. 3 months, 4 months, 5. You develop routines. Sunday mornings at the bakery near her apartment. Wednesday nights at your place because she finishes work late and your neighborhood is closer. Texts throughout the day that say nothing important but keep the connection warm. She starts leaving things at your apartment. A toothbrush, a phone charger, a sweater that smells like her. You don't ask her to, she just does, and you don't move them. Because moving them would be like saying this is temporary. And it doesn't feel temporary anymore. It feels like the thing you moved to Japan looking for without knowing you were looking for it. Then her visa question comes. She's on a dependent visa tied to her previous job. The company went under 4 months ago. She's been freelancing since, which technically violates her status. She has 60 days to find sponsored employment or leave the country. She tells you this on a Tuesday night in your apartment, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. Her voice is steady, but her hands aren't. You ask what her options are. She lists them like she's been rehearsing. Find a company willing to sponsor her visa. Switch to a student visa and enroll in language school, which costs money she doesn't have. Marry a Japanese citizen. Or leave. You hear the last option the loudest. You ask if there's anything you can do. She looks at you like she's weighing whether to say the next part. Then she does. You could marry me, not a proposal, a statement of fact, a technical solution to a bureaucratic problem. You're a foreign resident with a work visa. Marriage wouldn't give her automatic status, but it would allow her to apply for a dependent visa under your sponsorship. She'd still need to prove the relationship is genuine, but it's a pathway. She says this the way someone reads terms and conditions. like she's trying to drain all the emotion out of it so you won't feel pressured. You sit with it. 5 months isn't long. People date for years before this conversation. But 5 months in Tokyo, in this specific situation, feels different. You've already built something that most people take years to build because you had to. There was no casual dating infrastructure, no weekends at each other's childhood homes, no slow integration into friend groups and family dinners. It was just the two of you constructing a life in real time with no scaffolding. You tell her you need to think about it. She nods. She leaves an hour later. You don't sleep. You spend the night staring at the ceiling doing the math. Marriage means paperwork, immigration interviews, scrutiny. It means her life becomes tied to yours legally. It means if this falls apart, it doesn't just hurt. It has consequences. But letting her leave means losing the first thing in this city that made you feel like you weren't just surviving. And maybe that's not enough reason to marry someone, or maybe it's the only reason that matters. You call her the next morning, you say yes. Not because it's romantic, not because you have it all figured out, because the alternative is watching her pack a suitcase and disappear into a future that doesn't include you, and you're not ready to do that. The paperwork takes 3 weeks. You submit documents proving your relationship. Photos, receipts, lease agreements, witness statements from friends. The immigration officer interviews you separately. She asks when you met, where you went on your first date, what Yuki's favourite food is. You answer everything correctly. They approve the dependent visa. Yuki stays. You get married at the ward office on a Thursday afternoon. No ceremony, no guests. Just the two of you, and a clerk who processes the documents with the enthusiasm of someone filing taxes. You sign the papers. She signs the papers. The clerk stamps everything. You walk out legally married. You go to a family restaurant for lunch because neither of you thought to plan anything. You sit across from each other in a booth under fluorescent lights eating curry rice. She looks at you and starts laughing. Not happy laughing. The kind of laughing that happens when the absurdity catches up. You laugh too. You're married. In a family restaurant. In a country neither of you are from originally. Because a visa was expiring, it should feel wrong. It doesn't. It feels like the most honest thing you've done since you landed. That night she moves the rest of her things into your apartment. The space that was barely big enough for one person now holds two. You rearrange everything. Her books next to yours, her shoes by the door, her mug in the cabinet. The apartment transforms. It stops being your place. It becomes a place you share. And sharing space in Tokyo, where every square metre costs a fortune, is its own kind of intimacy. You lie in bed that night, her breathing steady next to you, and you think about how you got here. You moved to Japan to escape a life that wasn't working. You thought you'd teach English, see some temples, go home with stories. Instead, you married someone you've known for 5 months to keep her from being deported. And somehow that feels less like a mistake and more like the first decision you've made in years that wasn't about running away. The city is still outside, still indifferent, still expensive, still impossible. But inside this small room with thin walls and a futon on the floor, you've managed to build something that doesn't require the city's permission to exist. Morning comes, she's still here. That's enough. You didn't come to Japan for this. You came because you were lost, and maybe you still are. But now you're lost with someone else in a city that doesn't care, and somehow that makes all the difference.